Hi, my name is Sha Raye Horn. I currently serve as the science officer at the American Psychological Association. My undergraduate degree is in clinical, excuse me, it's in just psychology. My master's is in clinical psychological science, and I have a secondary master in business. At the American Psychological Association, I currently develop resources, research tools, and update journal reporting standards. I also help to design programs and initiatives for psychologists, students, and researchers.
Thank you. Michelle?
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having me. Michelle Pariset. My undergraduate degree was in community development from UC Davis, and my graduate degree is in political psychology from ASU. I'm currently the director of legislative affairs at Public Advocates, which is a civil rights law firm. So when how do I describe this? So when the law is not serving our communities, it's my job to write legislation, build coalitions, and convince legislators to carry our bills and to vote for them. I also, with other hats on, work on electoral campaigns. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Matthew?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Matthew Dempsey. I'm a professor here at Arizona State for the political psychology online master's degree. So my PhD is in political science, but I am a political psychologist by training. So that is super cool. But prior to my academic life, I worked in politics for almost a decade, mostly for members of Congress, but some state level politicians. And so I'm really excited to see what questions you have and to talk about our experience.
Nice. Thank you. And Morgan?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Turner. I use she, her pronouns. I am the community engagement director at an organization called Colorado Center on Law and Policy. So we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that works to advance the rights of all Coloradans. We do policy and advocacy across the entire state of Colorado. And our four main focus areas are food, health, housing, and income. As the community engagement director, I sort of wear multiple hats where I dabble a lot in the policy and advocacy sphere, but also work really closely with community members and community-based organizations to ensure that community challenges and barriers and input is really reflected in the policies that we're putting forward, and we're able to share that with legislators. So just making sure that everyone that should be at like the policy table is there. My undergraduate degree, I received that from Colorado State University, and it was in in psychology and Spanish. And then I went back to school and got my master's in public health. Really excited to be here with you all.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead with our first panel question. Can you guys talk about your journey from when you were undergrads and making the decisions about what grad programs to go to and how you ended up ultimately in the career that you are in right now? We'll start with Sha Raye again.
Yeah, so I started my undergrad at Morgan State University in Baltimore, and I just knew I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. So from there, after I graduated, I worked in child and adolescent psychiatry and various research settings at Johns Hopkins University. And I pretty much got my hands on any type of research. So I did some gene work, some neuro work, just everything. So I did that for a few years, and then I went back to get my clinical psychological science degree, after which I wasn't really sure if that's what I wanted to do anymore. I still love the clinical aspects of psychological science, but once I joined APA, I was really able to spread my wings and do a little bit of everything. So in terms of policy, my office in particular, we help to write some of those briefs that you see at presidential Congress events. And that's just a little bit of how I got here and what I do. I also focus on inequities. So those inequities range from food insecurity, lack of mental health access, and things like that. So yeah, that's my little spiel.
Cool. Thank you. Michelle?
There was 10 years between my undergrad and graduate degree. I graduated with a bachelor's at the tender age of 38. So I had quite a career before I even completed a 4-year degree. And then I was doing community organizing. So working on the minimum wage here in California, and bus routes and all kinds of labor campaigns. So it's kind of building to taking on legislation for a while. But I've been in this position or a position like it at my organization for 8 years now. And I just graduated with my master's in last December. And I made that choice because everyone around me is an attorney. People often mistake me for one, and I tell them I'm just mean, so I seem like an attorney. But I needed that advanced degree to be competitive with the folks that I work with, and to keep my salary increasing. But also, political psychology is just so interesting. And so when I found that major, it was that once I knew that major existed, like that was the final stroke that made me decide that I was going to go to graduate school. And I was so lucky, by the way, to have Matthew as a professor. If you're considering it, please, you should talk to him. He'll convince you.
Nice. Thank you. And Matthew?
I don't like those new reactions. That was too dramatic.
Yeah.
But I don't know that my path is particularly interesting, but in undergrad, I went to a small state school in Texas no one's ever heard of. I was a history major, but I only cared about American history. And as soon as I had to have world history, I got C's. I was like, this is not for me. But I also had a really influential intro government professor. And so I was like, he said, switch to political science. And I said, well, what do I do with that job or that, that major? And he's like, well, you could work in politics. It's like, well, I've never thought of that. So he's like, well, go down to the campus political organization, Young Democrats, Young Republicans, and see if you like it. And I did. And I stopped going to class because this was an election year. And I did nothing but volunteer on campaigns the entire fall semester. And I loved every minute of it. And that turned into a almost 10-year career. So towards the end of my time in politics, again, mostly working for members of Congress, this was 2010. The Tea Party was coming up. Students might not know what that is, but that's when politics really began to get hostile. Members of Congress were being shot on the corner, of their events. And so I was like, well, if I can do this anymore. So I tested out a master's at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas to see if I could even handle grad work. Loved it, applied to PhD programs, got into ASU. And then sort of discovered political psychology along the way. And I was lucky enough for ASU to start the master's in political psych in 2020. And I've been full-time faculty for that program ever since. So that's sort of my journey.
Wow. That is an interesting journey. So you have been in different areas, which is cool. Morgan?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to second. Thank you all so much for sharing your journeys. This is fascinating to hear. I'm happy to share a little bit about mine. So as I mentioned, my undergraduate degree I got in psychology, and I was very, very sure that I wanted to continue on into that route and go to, get a PhD, be a clinical psychologist, or I was really, really interested in child psychology at the time. In between my undergraduate degree and my master's degree, I actually took a year off. And I think that was really, really eye-opening to me, and thinking about, okay, let's look at these different systems a little bit holistically and a little bit on like a more macro level, right, at a higher level. And so during that time, I got really, really interested in just thinking about health access and thinking about the systems that often prevent people from, gaining access to things like physical health, of course, but also really mental health. And in Colorado, it's a huge disparity here in lack of mental health providers. And so I sort of pulled back and thought, okay, what does that look like in terms of a career, and how do I sort of make impact while also ensuring that I'm, bringing along folks or advocating on behalf and with folks that are directly impacted while also reaching that higher level. And so policy and advocacy sort of became that sweet spot of I could sort of still work with folks on, folks that are experiencing it while also really pulling the levers and having that grand impact that can really impact folks completely, statewide.
Nice. Gosh, you guys all do interesting work. I'm learning so much. This is awesome. Okay, so next question. Can you guys talk a little bit about what some of the job prospects are like in your fields?
I can start. So I would say it's pretty broad. At APA, we have several offices. We have publishing, we have advocacy. I work very closely with advocacy to prepare for anything that we want to present before Congress, Senate. Um, there's also a lot of folks like they're not so interested in IO psychology, but IO psychology really opens up your opportunities in work. So you have some psychologists who work in big corporations and like Google and just a lot, healthcare, corporate. And at APA, we have 500 folks who work with us. So, and that doesn't include our membership. So psychology really can take you anywhere. And I think we kind of heard that with everybody's story. So
Yeah, wow, that's cool. Thank you. Michelle?
I think prospects in my field are better if you live in a state with a full-time legislature. In California, we never stop politicking. So they're better in places that have more congressional districts, that have, lots of incorporated cities. So you've got city council races and all of these other electoral campaigns to work on. Prospects in California are pretty much only limited by the amount of hustle you are willing to put into it. There's so many electoral campaigns and legislative offices and advocacy organizations. So if you're willing to like time your children and your marriages and your vacations to the legislative calendar, and do a lot of walking and knocking and pay your dues, there's a lot of space for you out here.
Nice. Thank you. Matthew?
I won't speak to academia, but in politics, I mean, there's always going to be, I think, AI and robots are not going to replace Congress or state capitals. And so politics is always going to exist. We're always going to need lobbyists. Or even if you're not a lobbyist, if you're I mean, there are so many cutting edge issues for psychology right now. AI, both people medicating with AI, but psychologists using it to shortcut things. I think we need stricter ethical training for AI for both psychologists and civilians, so to speak. And, we need laws to help implement that sort of stuff. So whether you're just a practicing clinician and you want to lobby the legislature on behalf of your patients, having skills to interact with politicians, I think, is key. And for lobbying, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, it is a lot of what you know. Knowledge is gold, but it's also who you know. I'm sorry to say, probably who you know more than what you know. That's politics. That's life, frankly. It's academia. It's every job I've ever had, and I've had a bunch. It's always who you know. So one of the questions, I don't know if we're going to cover it, but I'm going to spoil my answer, which is, what did I learn in undergrad that was most useful? Network, network, network. Do not burn any bridges. Go to every alumni event. Talk to people. Every job I've ever gotten in my life is because of someone I've known, not what I know. I'm being totally honest. So especially in politics, it's who you know. And once you're there, you got to work hard. You got to be smart, all of those things. But what gets you in the door is knowing people. And so I think politics is an industry, again, never going away. So start networking now and be nice to people. I mean, that seems so silly to say, but it's true.
It is. Yes. Thank you. Morgan?
This may be unique to Colorado, but one thing that I've noticed about the policy and advocacy landscape, at least here, is that it is very collaborative. So you have nonprofits that are doing policy work. Of course, you could work at state departments, right? You could work actually for the legislature and be a legislative aide. You see community organizers and community organizing organizations that are also dipping their hat into, or dipping their, I'm terrible with these idioms, dipping their toe, I think that's right, dipping their toe into policy and advocacy. And so, research is a key part of our work. It's really important with any policy, right? That it is evidence-based, that it's evidence-backed. Sha Raye, you sort of mentioned that. And so one thing that's been sort of insightful for me is to think about how there are actually so many opportunities and ways to plug in into the policy and advocacy world, having this baseline of a psychology degree. So it's like, what are you interested in doing? I guarantee you could plug in.
That is cool. Yes. Gosh, I'm learning so much. This is awesome. Okay. So talk about sort of a rewarding aspect of your current position or your experience within this field. Sha Raye?
Yes, I would say what's most rewarding is that I get to work with so many big minds in the field. Like it's interdisciplinary. So I get to work with social workers, I get to work with policymakers, I get to work with the community. So it's really rewarding that my job, I never had the same day twice. And just like, like Matthew had said, making those relationships and continuing to be positive and a nice person, I get to do that every day at work.
Nice. Michelle?
Oh, I'm going to reveal a little too much about myself here. I love to win so much. And when I win, I get to win for a lot of people, right? So one of the bills that I wrote and helped pass was California's rent cap and just cause eviction law. So millions of people aren't getting rent gouged because I went to work a bunch and with some great partners, and we hustled. I love to win big, and when you're working in legislation, you can make a huge difference for a lot of people. And it's great because, I mean, what do you care about? Like, go find the organization that does that and work with them and figure it out and pass some bills, and you can do it.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. Matthew?
I'm going to sort of piggyback off my previous answer, but it's people. And, I'm not the most extroverted of people, believe it or not. But when you work in politics or you're politics adjacent, you have to be. And I probably have friends in all 50 states and some of the territories and other countries from my 8 years in politics. So I can go somewhere, call someone up, can I stay with you? Or where's a good restaurant to go or whatever. So I think the most rewarding time in politics was frustrating. Like I said, I left because things were getting scary and there was a lot of sad days, to be totally honest. But when I look back on it, it's mostly fondly. And it's the people that I'm still friends with. I started in 2002 that I'm still friends with to this day. And you're going to make life because you're in the trenches together in politics. A lot of politics, unfortunately, uses like warfare metaphors. I kind of always dislike that. But it's kind of just how we talk about American politics and always have. So you are in the trenches with these folks and you're going to make lifelong friendships. And I find that tremendously rewarding.
Nice. Morgan?
It's hard to come up with something unique because you all have touched on so many of things that I wanted to say. Michelle, I did want to say thank you so much for your work in California. Last year, Colorado, we passed for-cause eviction. So that's super, super exciting for us. It's the same thing, but our legislature didn't like the word just. So we won with for-cause. So very exciting. And thank you for all your work in California. But yeah, I mean, I think, God, there's so many pieces of what you all said that I completely resonate with. I mean, it's the collaboration, it's the big wins, it's the ability to see a policy or a bill all the way from, idea phase all the way to, it passing in the legislature. It's the fact that every day is something different, something new. You're constantly learning new things, and you get to do it with amazing people. I mean, the networking piece, Matthew, you keep hitting on is so essential, I think, to this work. And just knowing that, I mean, it really does take a village to get this work done. And so having the opportunity to build these relationships and make significant change for my organization, right, an entire state, is just incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly exhausting and challenging and frustrating as well. But you do have those moments of like, wow, we did this and we did this collaboratively, right? And a lot of human beings are going to benefit, from the efforts that we've put in.
Yes, which at the end of the day is the reason why we all kind of go to work. So I love that. All right, let's sort of go back. Matthew touched on this a little bit. He said he spoiled his answer, so he can tell us a little bit more about that. But I would like to know some of the skills and knowledge that you guys look back on that you got while you were in undergrad that are still serving you today in your current careers.
Number one, it would have to be anything research related. So statistics, data, it's gonna run the world. And I'm not sure who alluded to this, but we use the science to back policy. And if you have it, then you can kind of prove your point. There still may be opposing sides, but hey, the science is showing this. So if you can really lean into your statistics, your data classes, that'll benefit you your entire career.
Thank you. Michelle?
Um, be the person who loves the group work. And we hear this all the time. People complain about group work, and I've done it a million times. But when you can organize an agenda and facilitate a conversation and be the person everyone looks to like bring people together and make stuff happen, you're going to find that skill is like goes right back to having to struggle through having not great partners in your schoolwork sometimes, but managing to persevere and get it done anyway.
Yes. Thank you. Matthew?
That is such a good answer. I refuse to assign group work as a professor because I don't want to deal with the complaints. But it is 100% true that it's nothing like working with coworkers. That's 1,000 times worse, because now money's on the line. But you know, I don't think. I mean, I totally agree with stats and research design and being literate scientifically. I think all of that's valuable. Group work is valuable. You know, again, I don't think my best lesson was in the classroom. I still think it was networking and the people I met because of college that I would not have met otherwise. But keeping those relationships, becoming friends with professors, I don't know that that's required, but I'm still friends with professors from my undergrad and master's, and they've helped me a lot along the way, more so on the academia side than my political work. But I think that falls under networking. So, you know, just take every opportunity to go to office hours, go to join a club on campus, you know, come to things like this. You never know who you're going to meet and who you can call up or email up later on in life and be like, hey, I was in this thing. Can you help me with something? And they probably will. So I'm glad you all are here and take advantage of these resources while you can, for sure.
Nice. Thank you. Morgan?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to add, like, say yes to everything. I know, while also having boundaries, right? And work-life balance is very important. That's my caveat. But I think, Matthew, to your point, absolutely. You never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to run into. And those relationships really can last for a very long time. And life is long, right? So you never know when you need to reach out, back out to someone that you're like, hey, 10 years ago, we connected. I think a couple of other things that have really sort of set me up for success in my current role is just to think about the complexities of like human behavior, right? I think policy is very complex. It's multifactorial, right? We're never just talking about one specific thing. It balances social, economic, philosophical, psychological, right? All of these things play a large role in creating policy. And so I think being able to think and reason on sort of this systematic level has been incredibly helpful. And yeah, I mean, I gotta say, you know, sometimes during statistics class, I liked statistics, right? But sometimes I was like, what am I doing this for? Am I going to use it? Yes, absolutely, right? It's so important to be able to read a research paper, be able to, you know, go and search for credible articles and things like that. So yeah, absolutely. Some of your classes, I'm sure you're like, why are we doing this? But it does pay off, and it is really wonderful to have some of these skills.
Yes, thank you. And I think it's interesting that Sha Raye and Morgan, you both said research and stats and that kind of thing, which are the two classes that our students just really do not want to take. And yet they're the ones that you guys really do use, right? To be able to analyze data or even analyze what you're reading and be able to, you know where you're at in I would guess polls and things of that nature to be able to really critically think about those things. So I think that's really interesting. Um, So can you guys talk about whether or not you think your current job is it different than what you expected it to be? And you can kind of roll into that too. Did you ever expect you would be working here when you were an undergraduate and doing this kind of work, or is this different than what you may have thought you would be doing? And Sha Raye, you want to start us off?
Yes. So when I first heard the role science officer, like, come on, what is that? Like, what am I going to do every day? So, some days I feel like I'm still in grad school. I'm reading, I'm methods, I'm statistics, I'm writing, I'm analyzing. And then some days it's more strategy, execution, but all of it's very high pace. So if we need this brief, we have to have it done within a few days. Sometimes there's emergency briefs and things like that too. So it was the second part of that question. I'm sorry, I got carried away because I had to figure out my job along with everyone else.
That's okay. So, whether or not this is something that you ever thought you would be doing.
No, so I wanted to be a child psychologist. Full transparency, applied for a PhD in clinical child psychiatry, the most competitive year, COVID year. So when I didn't land and I landed at AP, I was like, I kind of like what I'm doing now. And this works out because I've been there for 5 years now. So, sometimes with your career, you just got to roll with it. You land where you're supposed to land and when you're supposed to land there.
Yep, I think that's true. Flexibility is definitely, and an open mind is really helpful when you're going through career. Yeah. Michelle?
Sha Raye, I just love your title. Science officer just makes me think of Star Trek. And like, like I see you on a bridge. Like, anyway. What did I think when I got this job? I thought that legislating was about policy and it is about power. So I think I would go back and to that undergrad question and say, learn everything that you can about power and how power really works. Go study their coursework in community organizing, go hang out with some union folks, just learn about raw, naked power and how to get it and who has it and how to keep it. Super important. Did I think I would be doing this? No. That's the easiest, that's the most direct answer. When I was doing my undergrad, I'd filled all of my coursework to apply for medical school. So that's where I thought I was headed. But then I realized I needed to get in front upstream of that problem, which is housing and wages and access to healthcare and all of the other things that are the predeterminants of health. So that's where I ended up. And I guess I would say just don't be married to an idea, to a path, because your path is going to meander all over the place if you're like most people, and just accept the gifts that are coming to you and take risks.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, I think I largely echo what everyone's saying. I mean, I thought I was going to be a high school history teacher till I got that stupid C in world history. So then when I became a political science major, and started working on campaigns. I don't think I ever thought that would last me almost 10 years. I don't ever think I thought that I would work for multiple members of Congress, travel the country doing political trainings, lobbying trainings. I don't think I was, what year were you in as a sophomore? 19? I don't think I had any idea. I was just like, okay, I guess I'll do this. And so I certainly didn't think I'd get a PhD and become a professor. So I totally agree with Sha Raye. Just everything sort of worked out and things just sort of clicked. And I didn't have, I was saying to a friend the other day, if I ever have a job interview and they ask me, what's your 5-year plan? I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing in 5 minutes after this interview. I have never planned out my life. And I think it's a waste of time and energy because it's not going to work out that way. I mean, have goals, pursue goals, but be flexible is the ultimate point, because life just doesn't work the way you want it to, good ways and bad ways. And so I think being flexible and networking and knowing a bunch of people in a bunch of different fields, you'll land on your feet.
Great. Yeah, I love that. Morgan?
And I think I can keep mine short and just agree. No, I had no idea that this is what I would be doing in my career. To be completely honest, I had no idea that this even was a career, right? I think for sure I thought policy was just for lobbyists and you had to be in Washington, D.C. I don't even think I knew about state legislature and state laws, which is wild to think about, but I didn't. And quite frankly, it wasn't until I did get to graduate school that I realized, wow, you can actually pursue a career in policy. So congratulations to you all. You are, way ahead of, where I was when I was an undergraduate. But yeah, I mean, it's you never know where life is going to take you and where you're going to land. And again, I had no idea that this is what I'd be doing, but very happy that this is my career.
Good. Thank you. So our very last question that I have prepared, you guys have already shared a lot of good pieces of advice. So I'm just going to kind of open it up for any of you. Is there anything else, another piece of advice that you'd like to share with our students?
I have one note, and it definitely piggybacks off of Matthew. But yes, it's very important to get a mentor. So in your undergraduate career, if you can, like Matthew said, find a good professor, find a grad student that can help you and guide you and show you show you around your field ahead of time, it'll work out for you later. And that's the biggest advice I wish because I was like, I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to people, but it's necessary. It'll cut your time short and mistakes made too. So it's important to find a good mentor who, tell you the truth and, keep it raw. I don't know if that's the right word, but just, tell you what you need to know to be successful.
Yeah. As an introvert, I have one more question. For you, as an introvert, do you find that the more you talk to people, sort of the easier, the better you get at it, even though it's still exhausting? And at the end of the day, you need time to sort of regroup, but do you find that it gets a little bit easier?
Yes, I can talk to anyone now, but it took years to get there. Funny short story. So APA has these big conventions. Everyone goes to these conventions, and there's a running joke for the introverts. Once we leave the convention that day, we have 30 minutes before we have to be at a dinner. Most of us are usually crying in our hotel room because we're just so just tired, and we've been extroverting all day, and that's just not us. So it's a joke, but yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Does anybody else have sort of another last piece of advice they want to give?
That reminded me that, sorry, Michelle.
Go ahead, Matt.
Someone I think said, I definitely did not invent this, that teaching is 90% acting. I think life is 90% acting. As a teacher, it's not just being smart. It's being able to convey information in a way that people can understand it. And that's true of any job in any field, especially lobbying. So while I don't think I do it much in my old curmudgeon-y age, I knew how to turn on the charm when I was in my 20s and early 30s working in politics. It's just something you learn to do, and you learn how to read people. And that's not stuff you can learn in school, but you can by networking. And I feel like such a jerk. I keep harping on that word, but I want to say something different. But it's a skill like anything else. And I probably would have to relearn it if I went back into politics today, because those skills are rusty outside of being a professor. But it's absolutely a skill. And you just go home, you recharge, you do whatever, and you're ready for the next day.
Good. Nice. Yeah.
I've got two things.
Okay.
Learn how to write quickly, intelligently. If you can outright everyone you're working with, like you're going to go far. And learn how to cosplay a professional. You don't have to that doesn't have to be your whole identity. Carolyn's laughing, but like I'm sleeved, right? I just have to put on a suit and go to the Capitol and do my hair and like put on my lobbyist costume. But you should have, if you're going to be a lobbyist or in politics, have your lobbyist costume or your politics costume, and don't resent it. Do your best anyway not to resent it. I resent it a little bit still, but you just have to present yourself professionally and give them one less reason to discount your argument.
Yeah, those are great.
And I'll just share a few, I think, and some folks have already hit on this, but it's wonderful to have a plan, but plans do change. And I encourage folks to just be open about that. And then also know now you're not going to graduate having all of the answers or knowing everything, right? So stay curious, be willing to learn, ask questions, and know that you'll learn a lot along the way. I think Matthew, you've shared, right? There's just a lot that you can't really teach, right? You can't teach and you can't learn in the classroom. So know that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay if you don't know everything, and you will, bit by bit start to feel more comfortable in the space, regardless of whatever sort of path you decide to pursue or whatever career you decide to pursue. I know a lot of folks have imposter syndrome. That's something that I struggled with fresh out of school or getting to my first job. And it's like, that's okay. I guarantee not everyone in your office or what have you has all the answers. And if they say they do, they're lying. So just know that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Because yes, Amanda and Lisa here are also advisors in our department, and we hear that all the time. They want to go out and they want to have all the answers already. They're afraid to go for these new positions because they don't have any experience. And it's like, you just have to get out there and do it, and you'll learn it, and you'll be great. So thank you guys for being so open and for answering these questions so candidly. I really appreciate that. So I want to open it up now to our students. Students that are here, what questions do you guys have? What would you like to know? Yeah, Claudia.
Okay, I have 3 questions. I'm not sure if that is too much or not, because I want other
That's fine.
students to ask questions. So I'm looking at get my LCSW and my MPA because ASU offers that concurrent program. And I think if I'm unsure if I want to stay on the individual level or go into policy, like what signs or experiences might help me figure that out.
I actually had another note for advice for undergraduates, so I think this is perfect for your question. I think understanding your why really drives your career. So if it's very important to reach people on an individual level, you feel the most happy, you feel most joy, most accomplished, then that might be your why. If you're like, I'm a person who wants further reach, I want to change the world, then you may want to do on a systems level. So I don't know if that'll help, but I always think like going back to your why and what type of professional you want to be, very interpersonal or big stage.
Do an internship, like find some place that'll let you even. I have so many students that come through our office and like, just hang out for a couple of weeks. I'll show you everything that I do just to get a flavor for it. Cause you're talking about making this enormous commitment, right? Of your time and your treasure, and figure out if yeah, you're asking the right questions. Hopefully there's like people in your life who can get you in the door somewhere so you can see how things work.
Yeah, and even short of an internship, though, that's a great idea, is find an interest group that you align with, whether you're pro-choice, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, gun regulation, whatever. Almost all of them are going to have lobby days. So you sign up, you do like a morning training on an issue, they teach you how to lobby, and you go to the city hall or the state capitol, which is easy for Tempe because it's 2 feet away to Phoenix, and you lobby legislators right then, or they'll have a week-long boot camp or whatever it is. So think about an issue that you're really passionate about, find an interest group that's active in Arizona that speaks to that issue, and see if they do any sort of lobby days. Because that's a really great way, one, to network, but two, to know what does lobbying actually entail. And so I know there's programs at ASU that like send students to Washington. Can't think of any of them, of course, off the top of my head, but look for resources like that. Ask academic advisors, they might know. But I know you can find lobby days where they'll give you some donuts and breakfast and they'll teach you really quickly the ins and outs of it, and you'll see if you like it or if you don't.
Yeah, that's great.
I guess that then leads into my second question, which was, do you think that it's important to have direct experience working on the individual level to help create more effective policies? And if so, how did you gain experience? Because some of you guys were looking at being, child psychologists and things like that.
Yeah, Michelle?
I got hired as a lobbyist, having never run a single bill. My company, my firm hired me because they liked my values and they figured whatever policy thing that I needed to know, they could teach me. Right. So, yeah, I think if your values aligned with your organization and you can show them that through like previous work or personal experience, you know, if you want to go lobby for a union and your parents were in a union or you've been in a union, like that matters. Personal experience matters. But to learn, like you mentioned, LCSW. So if you want to lobby as a social worker, it would behoove you to have experience as a social worker or to be someone who's been impacted by social work, right? If you grew up in foster care, for example, or so having like a connection to the thing that you're working on is gonna show any employer that you know what you're talking about, but also you will have a deeper connection to it, and be able to share more of your story with a legislator.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd add, I mean, one of the things, Michelle, this just like made me think of something. So the lobbying firm that we use, CCLP, Colorado Center on Law and Policy, they're all social workers, which is strange, which is not, I shouldn't say strange, a little uncommon, but just know. So like this path can lead you on to policy. We have a couple of social workers on staff as well that are policy advocates. But I think in terms of the skill sets that you can gain from doing sort of that one-on-one or more interpersonal approach, is like the ability to listen, the ability to understand different experiences and perspectives. I think a lot of the times a huge mistake I see in the policy sphere is people just come up with policies. And I'm like, well, where did that come from? Right? Who thought of this solution? I don't know. I thought it was a good idea. Did you ask anyone about it? Did you do any research? Have you heard this is actually an issue? Have you heard that's a good solution? So I think being able to like have that foundation of like, you have to talk to people, you have to connect with people, you have to understand where people are coming from is huge in the policy space.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any other questions? I think Claudia said she had one more, but does anybody else have any? All right, Claudia, do you have one more?
It was somewhat touched on. My last question just was, what professional organizations or coalitions would you recommend joining for someone pursuing both clinical and policy-oriented goals that you know of?
That's a good one.
APA would be a good place. We have all of that under in-house. So I would recommend us. I will drop my email in the chat and you can tell me your interest and I'll get you connected.
Okay,
But
that would be
yes,
fantastic.
we have everything there.
Thank you.
This may be a little tangential to kind of what you're looking for, but if you're going to go into policy work and into lobbying at a legislature, I have found that getting plugged in, whatever your political alignment is, get plugged in with like your local central committee, your clubs, all of those things, because those folks who are engaged on that level are often the same people that are working in a legislature. So like if you're in a capital, very close to a capital city. So I'm in Sacramento. So every club here is just full of folks who are either working in the legislature, working on campaigns. It's just a great way to network and meet folks, and they will help you get plugged in, both the jobs in the legislature, jobs at the party. It's not quite a professional association, but it might as well be.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Other questions?
Real question out there. So Matthew, I know you have talked about networking, and I know especially for introverts that, kind of sends ice through their veins. That's really a scary thing. I've often told students, and I guess I want to bounce this off of the panel. When I talk about what networking is, I feel like networking is about being authentically curious, of talking with people and just being curious about what they're kind of what got them and the questions that Dawn is asking you. And I feel like that is, I've gone to networking things which just always feel really icky. I feel like I need to take a shower afterwards. I feel gross about, so we'll bring them a gift and try to, and I'm like, no, but I often tell students, especially in clinical psych, yeah, being really curious about people and what their background is and, just getting to know people. Is that advice is, that works here? Or is there something different you want to learn how to do in addition to or different from that?
Yeah, I mean, networking is not speed dating. Not that I've ever done speed dating. I've just seen it in
Right.
sitcoms, but it's not that. You definitely, that would be icky. I would have the ick factor there too. I think someone mentioned earlier being maintaining sort of like intellectual curiosity throughout your life. I think it's similar here, but you can fake it. 90% of life is faking it, right? But acting as if you're interested in what that person has to say and what they do. I don't know if this is like 20th century knowledge, but like save the business card, write a few notes on the back so you can jog your memory when you need it. Do people have business cards? I mean, I have some for ASU. I don't even know where they are. I never use them. So I don't know if working professionals do that or if it's QR codes these days. I don't know how it works, but I don't know that I had any specific tricks or goals in mind. I just talk to people, I ask questions. I mean, it depends on like what you're doing. So like when I'm working for a member of Congress, of course I sort of have that authority behind me, even though I'm just some lowly underpaid staffer. But it was always seeming as if I cared and was interested, and I did because I really liked my job. But remembering people's names, my God, that's honestly one of the biggest things is if you can recall what they do or who they are the next time you see them, they're imminently impressed. So that's where writing little things on the back of the business card, I think, is so helpful. But be authentic. People, especially in politics, the default is going to be you're a snake. So if you can demonstrate you're not a snake, that you're an authentic person who really wants to do good, I think you're gonna do wonderfully.
Plus 1 million to that. Other places may have gone away from the business card, but the California legislature runs on them. I play a game when I get someone's card. Matthew, you said it perfectly. I write down after we meet everything I can remember about them, their name, their kids, where they went on vacation, whatever it is. And then when I have a low point in my schedule, like in the day, if I've got 20 minutes, I spread the cards out on my desk and I play a game of memory where I try to remember, because so much of politics is transactional and it feels gross. And nobody wants to feel like you only talk to them because you want something from them or you're trying to get a meeting with their boss or whatever it is. Like if you can build a real and genuine relationship with a person, that's going to take you back to what Matthew was saying about networking. That's going to go so far. I call it project infiltration. Like I have friends everywhere across the administration now because for years I have been caring about what happened to people's kids and where they went on vacation. And it's being genuinely interested about other people, especially when you find the ones who are values aligned, it's going to take you really far.
I'll just add to, I think there can be a lot of anxiety around like, what does the first initial contact exchange look like? Or what does that first meeting look like? And it's like, take a deep breath because it doesn't really have to be that serious, right? I've met people, students, right, or folks that just graduated that are interested in policy and advocacy. I've met folks for coffee. I've had a 30-minute Zoom call where they come and say, hey, this is what I think I'm interested in. Can you tell me a little bit about the work that you do? Can you tell me a little bit about what prepped you for this, right? So know that I think there are a lot of us out here. I don't want to speak for everyone on the call, but I'm going to, that want to be resources, that want to provide support, that want to answer questions. So also keep that in mind. We all have our day jobs, but there's nothing more fulfilling, at the same time of being like, wow, I talked to someone that is curious about this career and maybe I answered a couple of questions, or maybe they'll then follow up and they'll have an internship or something like that. So no, I think most people in this space also are willing to help and want to help.
Nice. Thank you. All right, so we just have a couple minutes left. So does anybody else have one last question, or you can also put it in the chat if that makes you more comfortable, and I can read it if you'd prefer. All right, so just to wrap
Looks
up.
like Claudia I saw Claudia raise a
Oh,
hand.
Claudia, I'm so sorry.
So-
Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just kind of hesitant.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Because I don't want to be taking over from the students.
You're totally fine.
I think just my last question within the lobbying and policy making, especially in the behavioral health and mental health field, like how does understanding the lived realities of the individuals that are being impacted through the legislators that's getting passed, how are those designed and how are they implemented, and is it just based off of research? Just the importance of, from top down,
I would say in the current administration, all efforts are going to have to be backed by research to get the laws passed, to get the lobbying. I don't know if that answered your question, but that was my first thought, that the research is going to be most important in getting laws passed right now.
Every lawmaker is different. Sometimes you'll never meet with a lawmaker. You're going to meet with their staff. Sometimes you get 5 minutes. Sometimes you get 30. You're probably lucky if you get 30, honestly. It'd be rare to get an hour probably of their time. But that depends. If it's one of their pet projects and they're really interested because it impacts their family or something, you might get more time or they'll schedule a follow-up. But I kind of joked about the speed dating thing earlier, but when I'm thinking back to my lobbying days, it was kind of speed dating. You had to figure out people on the fly and what was going to resonate. So in a very general sense, there's sort of a theme to your questions of does lived experience matter? And I think the answer is absolutely yes, but that's not going to influence everyone. Some people are to be like, if you came to me, my significant other is very emotional, sort of in the mental health space, and I am not. I am very academic, rational. What's the p-value here, and how many studies have done this? So, like, if you came to me, I don't know that I would care about the lived experience as much if I was a legislator. I'd be like, give me your works cited page, APA format, please. And then I'll make my decision based on that. But other legislators are going to be coming from different backgrounds. And so being adaptable, being able to talk to different people, this is no different than if you become a clinician or a social worker. Dealing with people is the job. And so knowledge is power. You never want to lie when you're lobbying. That's something you'll learn in a lobby day if you ever do it. Knowledge is what you trade in. But the second most valuable thing is people skills. Is getting them vested to believe you and your point of view and your spin on the data rather than the other side who's coming in 30 minutes after you. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but I hope it gives you some insight.
Definitely helps. Thank you.